Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Carolyn Coker-Ross. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. First off, I guess you can recognize this is not a live webinar, and we did this on purpose for one reason. We brought it to you this way so that it can be on your time, not on our time. That way, it's available to you whenever you have time. So, want to make sure that you have access to this because it's really important. I know that so many of you are wanting to make very important life changes. You may be wanting to, have more energy. You may want to be able to do more with your kids and with your family members. And you may also be worried about health issues. So these are the kinds of things that the webinar today will be talking with you about how you can really make those important changes in your life. I know you're feeling probably, as so many of the people that I've worked with who are just like you, feeling tired of trying yet another new thing. And maybe you don't even think that another new thing will work. You may be feeling as if, it's not possible, maybe giving up on yourself. Well, don't give up on yourself. Amongst us, my team of experts, you'll see Leslie Bench, Courtney Pfeiffer, and Crystal Van Meter. Between all of us, 4 people, on the anchor team, we have over 50 years of experience in working with people who are just like you. So we know that we can help you. We're confident that we can help you to achieve your goals. So stick with us. You might want to get a pencil and paper so that you can take some notes because there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to want to remember. Just stick with the masterclass, and at the end of this webinar, we will show you how to get started on this journey to success with conquering your food and body image issues. So let's get started. So first of all, in this webinar, you're going to be learning that you are not craving what you think you are. And Leslie's going to be talking with you about the most important things. I think it's 6 important things that will really help you to understand why your cravings are so strong and why you're having such difficulty in controlling them. Courtney is going to talk to you about how sugar can have a hold on you and how you can break free of that. And that's important. And then finally, Crystal is going to be talking with you about how to discover your authentic body. And I think you're going to find that very intriguing. But before I start, I want to ask you this really important question. And I'm again going to ask you to, make some notes. And the question is, what are the things that you love that you put last on your list? So take a moment right now and just write down a few things. You don't have to do an exhaustive list, but as we go through the webinar, keep jotting down any notes of things that you remember. There may be things you remember even from your childhood. I mean, I think about, for me, things like swimming, which I used to love to do so much as a child. And I often had to remind myself that, yeah, you really like swimming. Go swim and do something you love. So make a list of all the things for you, and they may be things you love to eat. They may be places you love to be. But just start that list and then keep notes. And then at the end, I will be coming back to you and we'll be talking more about that. The next thing I want to ask you is, how out of control has your life been? So some of us have lives that are so out of control that we really just can't even function, and it's not even just about doing the things you love. We're not even able to get things done during the day. And you may feel flustered and overwhelmed, and this can obviously have an effect on your eating, and it can also have an effect on your self-esteem. If you're feeling like, I'm just not getting things done, I'm just not competent, I'm not capable, those are all things that can really put a ding in your self-esteem and can cause overeating or emotional eating. As you know, stress, of course, causes a lot of overeating, and that's part of this situation that you're seeing here. So it may have gotten to the point in your life where even your health has been affected, and that's you know, I talk to a lot of people just like you who are worried about their health, or maybe they've been told by their doctor that they need to lose weight for health reasons. And that seems like, oh, you know, I want to so badly, and yet I'm not able. I've tried this, I've tried that. I talked to someone just today who was saying, I've tried dieting, I've tried exercising really hard, and the weight is just not budging. So we're going to really get into a little bit more about this, and we'll talk about it throughout the webinar. And hopefully you'll get a lot more information about that and how you can improve your health. So don't forget to keep writing down your thoughts and insights as we go along. You may be asking, what's wrong with me? You know, sometimes when we've tried so hard to do something that we really, really want to do, and I'm not just talking about losing weight, I'm not talking about that at all, as a matter of fact, but sometimes it's just, you know, I'd like to not always be obsessed with food or be afraid of what to eat or what not to eat. And, you know, that question, what's wrong with me, comes up a lot because, you know, the people that I work with who are just like you often say, well, you know, my family doesn't even understand me. You know, they don't know why I can't get this under control. They don't understand why this is so hard for me. And that makes you think, what's wrong with me? Well, again, I want to reassure you, you're not alone. It's not easy to make changes. But, you know, the first step to making a change, the first step towards getting somewhere is to decide that you are not going to stay where you are. So let me just read that again. The first step towards getting somewhere new is to decide that you are not going to stay where you are. So that's the first step you need to take. And so again, maybe just take a moment and ask yourself, what's in it for you to make these changes? What's going to help you to see that, you know, what is the advantages to you of making changes in your life, and what are the disadvantages? And some of you may be thinking, well, there are no disadvantages, obviously. You know, I want to get healthy. There's only advantages to that. But sometimes there are unconscious or underlying advantages to staying in one place. I mean, it's comfortable. Let's face it. You know, making change is not easy all the time. So if you decide not to make a change, or by default don't make changes, then, you know, you can stay in your comfort zone. So again, as we're going through this, just ask yourself these same questions and make some notes and see what kind of insights you can gain. So I want to talk to you now about what you need to know to make the changes you want. And there are a number of different stages of change. So you may find yourself in one stage or another stage, or you may find yourself kind of between stages. But again, be sure to have your pen and pad handy, because you're going to be determining what stage of change you're in. And these stages of change help you understand why it may be the right time or not the right time, or why you may be having more difficulty making changes versus not making changes. So you'll see here that these stages of change start with the stage of pre-contemplation. If you're in the pre-contemplation stage, you're not really seeing the advantage to you of making the change. You may be in denial. You may be seriously wanting to change, but not really ready. And you may have had so many different attempts at changes that you've actually given up now. So if you're in that stage, you know, just mark that down, because that gives you a lot of insight into what needs to shift in order for you to make the next level. And then the second stage of change is the stage of contemplation. In this stage, you may be feeling ambivalent. You want to change. You can see very valid reasons why you need to change, but you're still hesitating and you're still having those problem behaviors. So again, if you think that's you, then write down, I am in the contemplation stage. The next stage is preparation. In this stage, you may have decided to change your behaviors. You've actually made that decision. And then you begin to think about, what do I need to do? During this stage, you may have already made some minor changes to support your goal, but you may not have completely ended the unwanted behaviors. If that's the stage you're in, that's wonderful because you're making forward progress. You're not going to be all, it's not going to be all smooth where you suddenly stop overeating and it never happens again. Just recognize that and accept that if you can. Because it's more of a backward and forward process. It's not just a straight, process. The next stage of change is the action stage, and that's where you're actually taking action, taking significant steps to end the problems that you're having. You may be avoiding triggers. You may be reaching out for help. It may be why you actually came on the webinar tonight. And you may be taking steps to avoid the things that you don't want to do. So if you're in that stage, great, keep going. And then the maintenance stage. That stage is often one that we neglect. Well, maintenance really requires that you maintain the changes you've made. You may continue to face challenges in the maintenance phase, but at this point, you should have successfully been able to sustain the behavior changes you've made. And then finally, we have to talk about the relapse stage. And that's one that most people never think about. When you make these behavior changes, like you start an exercise program, in your mind, you never say to yourself, well, one day I'm going to relapse and stop exercising. But it's important to think about the relapse stage so you're not caught unawares, because when you're caught unawares, and you find yourself going back to old behaviors, many people that I've worked with, just like you, will say to themselves, well, I've already screwed up, so I might as well just forget about it. And that's not what sustained behavior change requires. The relapse phase is all about getting back on your program, even if you've had some problems. It's about restoring those behaviors. And this can happen. Relapse can happen at any time. And you shouldn't be afraid of it, and you should use it to understand, maybe gain insights into the things that trigger you. So those are the stages of change, and I hope through listening to this, you've been able to recognize which stage you're in right now. And once you see which stage you're in, then you can say to yourself, okay, well, I'm in the contemplation stage, so I need to ask myself, really, what are the pros and cons? I need to get clear about what are the advantages to me making change, and also clear about what may be holding me back from making changes. So let's go back now to, again, asking yourself, what is it that you love that's now last on your list? What do you really love that you put last on your list? So look at your list and see if you can gain any insights about that. How much of your time, for example, is devoted to doing the things you love, and how much of your time is devoted to obligation or, work or things you think you should do or things you think you have to do? How much of your time and energy are you spending on obsessive thoughts about food or, unpleasant thoughts about your body, dissatisfaction with your body or again, worries about your health? So that's what we're here to talk to you about today, and we're going to keep going. So stay with us. There's more to come. I hope that you've, started to really get a picture of what's available to you here, because what's available to you here is something that's completely different than what you've experienced before. So how are you doing? What are you learning? I hope you're with us. You're continuing to make notes with for a long time. Oh, before I do that, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you about a wonderful success story from PG, who lives in Atlanta. And I just want to give you a little flavor of what people have gotten from the kind of work that we do in the Anchor program. So less than a year, she says, less than a year after working with Dr. Ross, I've never felt so confident that I'm finally on to the lifetime solution, a true end to dieting without contrived alterations in my food choices. So that's a wonderful success story. And what's great about it is I think all of us that you see here on the webinar really are passionate about our work. And for me, there's really nothing better than getting a comment like this and seeing people change, people just like you who come in being afraid, being distrustful, being skeptical, and then at the end, less than a year, and by the way, I've worked with PG for almost 7 years now, and it's amazing to see the changes that she's made, and that's so rewarding for me, as I know it is for my team members. Thank you so much again for joining me on this webinar. In the next webinar that you will receive, Courtney Pfeiffer, registered dietitian who specializes in the treatment of eating disorders, will be talking to you about how sugar may have a hold on you and how you can break free. Look for that webinar, which you'll receive shortly.